Welcome back to Easy English Talk Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Easy English Talk Podcast. I am so happy you are here with us today, and I genuinely hope you are doing well wherever you are in the world. Priya, hey, how are you doing today? It feels like it has been a busy week already, at least on my end.
Ryan, hi. Yes, honestly, it has been a full week. I had a lot of small things to deal with, but I am feeling good now that we are here recording. There is something calming about this.
I totally agree. There is a kind of comfort in sitting down and just having a real conversation. And that is exactly what we love about doing this podcast.
Now, to all of you listening right now, hello, and a warm welcome to this episode. We would love to know where in the world you are watching or listening from. Drop your city or country in the comments. It always makes us smile to see how many different places our listeners are from.
Also, we want to ask you something important. Is this podcast helping you improve your English? And beyond that, is it helping you grow as a person? Please leave us a comment and let us know. Your feedback truly means a lot to us.
Yes, please do share your thoughts. We read every single comment, and it helps us understand what is working and what you want to hear more of. Your voice matters here.
Absolutely. Now, today we are discussing why being alone sometimes means getting stronger. And I promise you, if you stay with us through this whole episode, you are going to leave with a completely different view of what alone time really means.
That is right. A lot of people feel uncomfortable when they're alone. And in this episode, we want to help you understand why that happens and what you can actually do about it. This is a topic that touches everyone's life.
Let us start with the core problem. Most people today feel very uncomfortable when they are alone. Not just bored, but genuinely uneasy, like something is wrong or missing.
That feeling is more common than people think. When someone finds themselves alone, the first instinct is usually to pick up the phone, turn on the TV, or text someone. Anything to fill the silence. Stillness feels uncomfortable.
And why does that happen? Why does silence and solitude feel so threatening to so many people? I think it starts from a very early age and how we are taught to see being alone.
Exactly. From childhood, we are often taught that being with people is good, and being alone is somehow sad or wrong. If a child was always by themselves at school, adults would worry. If an adult says they spent the weekend alone, people ask, is everything okay?
Right. Society has built this idea that being alone means something is broken. You are either lonely, antisocial, or going through something difficult. Rarely do people think, oh, they're just recharging and growing. That connection is almost never made.
And then social media made everything worse. Now people constantly share what they are doing, who they are with, and where they are going. If you are not posting anything, it looks like nothing is happening in your life. There's this pressure to always be connected and visible.
That is such a good point. Social media didn't just change how we communicate, it changed how we feel about our own lives. Silence started to feel like failure. Being alone started to look like falling behind.
And the problem with running from alone time is that you never get to hear your own thoughts clearly. You are always responding to other people's content, other people's noise. You lose touch with yourself.
Which brings us to something very important. There is a huge difference between being lonely and being alone. These two things are completely different, but many people treat them as the same thing. And that confusion creates a lot of unnecessary suffering.
Loneliness is an emotion. It's the painful feeling of wanting connection but not having it. You can feel lonely in a room full of people if none of those connections feel real or meaningful. Loneliness is about disconnection.
Whereas being alone is simply a physical state. You are by yourself. There are no other people around at that moment. But how you feel in that state, that depends entirely on your mindset and your relationship with yourself.
Some people can be alone for hours and feel completely peaceful, productive, and even joyful. Others feel lost within minutes of being by themselves. The difference is not the situation. It is how they have learned to relate to their own company.
So the real problem is not being alone. The real problem is that most people have never been taught to be comfortable with themselves. They have never practiced it, and so it feels strange and scary when it happens.
And because no one taught them how to sit with their own thoughts, they avoid it at all costs. They keep themselves busy, distracted, and surrounded by noise, not because they enjoy it, but because the alternative feels too uncomfortable.
Now, let us talk about why being alone can actually be one of the most powerful things you do for yourself. Because once you understand the value in it, the discomfort starts to make much more sense.
Think about your mind like a busy city. During the day, there is constant traffic, people talking to you, tasks demanding your attention, notifications arriving every few minutes. Your mind is always in motion, always responding.
And when you are surrounded by all of that noise, there is no space for your own deeper thoughts to come through. The important ideas, the honest feelings, the real questions, they stay buried underneath the busy surface.
But when you step away from all that and allow yourself to just be still and quiet, those deeper thoughts start to rise naturally. You begin to notice what you actually feel, what you actually want, and what actually matters to you, not what others expect.
That process, that slowing down and listening inward, is where so much personal strength comes from. Because you cannot know yourself well if you never spend time with yourself. Self-knowledge is built in quiet moments.
And when you truly know yourself, your values, your patterns, your triggers, you become much harder to manipulate or destabilize. Other people's opinions and pressures have less power over you because you have a solid sense of who you are.
That is a kind of inner strength that cannot come from other people. It has to be built from the inside, in those moments of stillness and self-reflection. No relationship, no amount of praise, no achievement can give you that. Only solitude can.
There is also something very interesting about creativity and alone time. Some of the most original thinking happens when the mind is not being driven by external demands. When you are alone and relaxed, your brain makes unexpected connections.
Yes, many creative people, writers, musicians, scientists, artists, have said that their best ideas came not during work sessions, but during walks, baths, quiet evenings, or moments of rest. The mind produces more when it is less crowded.
That is because during solitude, the brain enters what scientists call a default mode. It's like a background processing state where memories are organized, ideas are connected, and problems are gently worked through without you even trying.
So alone time is not empty time. It's actually some of the most productive time your brain has, even if it doesn't look like anything is happening from the outside. The work is happening inside, quietly and naturally.
Another area where solitude builds strength is in emotional independence. A lot of people rely heavily on others to manage their emotions. They need constant reassurance, constant company, constant validation to feel okay.
And while support from others is beautiful and important, over-relying on external sources for emotional stability can be exhausting, both for you and for the people around you. It creates a kind of fragility.
When you practice spending time alone and learning to sit with your own emotions without immediately running from them or needing someone to fix them, you start to develop a deeper trust in yourself. You realize you can handle more than you thought.
And that trust in yourself, that quiet confidence that says, I can sit with this feeling, I can process this, I will be okay. That is one of the most powerful forms of emotional strength a person can develop. It is real resilience.
Think about difficult emotions like sadness, disappointment, or anxiety. Most people immediately try to escape those feelings. They distract themselves, numb themselves, or look for someone to take the feeling away. The emotion never gets processed.
And what happens to emotions that are never processed? They do not disappear. They build up. They come out sideways in irritability, anxiety, burnout, or sudden emotional reactions that feel out of proportion to the situation.
But when you allow yourself to sit quietly alone with a difficult feeling, to acknowledge it, to let it move through you, you are giving it the space it needs to resolve. That is not weakness. That is actually very mature emotional work.
Over time, this builds a kind of emotional stamina. You become less afraid of hard feelings because you have learned that they pass. You have experienced again and again that you can feel something difficult and still be okay.
Now let us talk about something that I find really fascinating: identity. A huge part of why being alone can make you stronger is that it gives you the space to discover who you actually are, separate from the roles you play for others.
That is such an important point. When we are with other people, friends, family, colleagues, we naturally take on certain roles. We adapt, we perform, we present a version of ourselves that fits the context. It is human and normal.
But the danger is when you spend so much time in those roles that you forget or never discover who you are beneath them. You become so shaped by what others expect that your own preferences, opinions, and desires become unclear even to yourself.
And many people reach a point in life where they realize they have been living on autopilot, making choices based on what was expected or what felt safe, rather than what they truly wanted. Alone time breaks that pattern.
When you are alone, there is no one to perform for. You don't need to be funny, helpful, agreeable, or impressive. You can just be. And in that space, you start to notice what you genuinely enjoy, what bores you, what excites you, without any external influence.
And that self-knowledge is incredibly powerful. People who know themselves well tend to make better decisions, set clearer boundaries, and live with more intention. They are not easily pulled in directions that do not suit them, because they know what does suit them.
I like to think of it like tuning an instrument. When you are always surrounded by noise, you can't hear if you're even in tune. Alone time is that quiet moment where you actually listen to yourself and make adjustments. You recalibrate.
What a great way to put it. And the beautiful thing is that when you come back to your relationships from that place of self-knowledge, you are actually a better, more present person in those relationships. Being alone charges your ability to connect.
So let us move into some practical ideas, because we don't want this to just be an interesting conversation. We want you to walk away with real tools you can use. How do you actually begin to enjoy and benefit from being alone?
The first thing I would suggest is to start very small. You don't need to go on a week-long solar retreat. Start with just 15 or 20 minutes a day where you intentionally sit or walk without any device, any music, or any distraction.
That alone can feel very different from how most people live. Just sitting without a phone is something many people haven't done in years. At first, it might feel uncomfortable, and that is completely fine. That discomfort is not a problem. It's information.
The discomfort is showing you where your mind goes when it is not distracted. It might go to worries, regrets, or random thoughts. That is okay. You do not need to fix anything. Just observe. That observation is the beginning of self-awareness.
Another very effective practice is writing. Journaling, even just a few sentences a day, gives your inner world a place to land. When you write down your thoughts, they become clearer. Confusion often turns into understanding very quickly once it's on paper.
I have spoken to many people who started journaling and said it was like finally having a real conversation with themselves for the first time. The paper does not judge, does not interrupt, and does not give unwanted advice. It is a very honest space.
You do not need to write beautifully. You do not even need to make complete sentences. The goal is not good writing. The goal is honest expression. Just let whatever is inside come out onto the page without editing or judging it.
Walking alone is another wonderful form of solitude. There is something about moving your body slowly through a space, especially outdoors, that naturally quiets the anxious parts of the mind and allows more reflective thinking to emerge.
Many thinkers throughout history were known to be dedicated walkers. They did their best thinking not at a desk, but while walking, slowly, letting the mind wander. There is real science behind why this works so well for clarity and insight.
And the key thing with all of these practices is consistency, not intensity. You do not need long sessions. Regular short moments of genuine solitude, done consistently over weeks and months, produce profound and lasting inner change.
Here's something that might surprise some listeners. Spending regular time alone actually improves your relationships with others. It seems counterintuitive, but it is genuinely true. And the reasons are very clear when you think about it.
When you are not emotionally dependent on others to feel okay, you stop relating to people from a place of need. Instead of looking to others to fill something in you, you come to relationships feeling already whole. That changes the entire quality of the connection.
Relationships built from neediness tend to become complicated and exhausting over time. There is often pressure, possessiveness, and a lot of unspoken expectations. But when both people have a strong relationship with themselves, the dynamic shifts completely.
Also, when you spend time alone and process your own emotions independently, you stop bringing every unresolved feeling into your relationships. You are not constantly asking others to hold what is yours to hold. That creates much more space for genuine warmth.
And you also become a better listener. When you are comfortable in silence on your own, you are not anxious in the silences of conversation. You can sit with a friend in quiet and simply be present, which is one of the greatest gifts you can offer someone.
So, rather than choosing between being alone and being social, think of it as a rhythm. You need both. Time with others fills the heart with connection and warmth. Time alone fills the self with clarity and strength. Both are necessary. Both are beautiful.
I want to talk about something that is perhaps the biggest shift of all, changing the story you tell yourself about being alone, because how you interpret an experience shapes how it feels far more than the experience itself.
That is so true. If every time you are alone you tell yourself, "This is sad, I am missing out, something is wrong with me," of course it is going to feel terrible. You are actively making it worse with the meaning you attach to it.
But if you begin to practice a different narrative, this is my time, this is where I grow, this is where I find out who I am, the exact same physical situation begins to feel entirely different. You have changed nothing external, only the meaning.
Language plays a big role in this too, and this is actually relevant for all of you who are practicing English. The words we choose to describe our experiences shape how we feel about them. "I am stuck alone" versus "I have time to myself" are describing the same thing, but they feel completely different.
That is a wonderful English learning point as well. Practicing positive and constructive language, both in your native language and in English, trains your brain to find different perspectives. The words you choose to describe your life shape your reality.
So here is a small practice for you. The next time you find yourself alone and feel that wave of discomfort rising, pause, take a breath, and say quietly to yourself, "This is where I get to know myself better. This is a gift." See how it changes the feeling.
It sounds simple, and it is, but simple practices done consistently are what produce real transformation. You are not suppressing the discomfort. You are offering it a different container, a different meaning, and watching it gently release.
Let us also talk about how solitude connects directly to achieving your goals, whether those goals are learning English, building a skill, creating something, or simply living a more intentional life.
Deep, focused work, the kind that actually moves you forward, requires a degree of solitude. When you are constantly around people or constantly distracted, your attention is always being divided. You can never go deep enough to make real progress.
Think about learning English as a perfect example. You can attend classes, watch videos, and speak with friends, all of which are very helpful. But there's also a layer of learning that only happens in quiet solo practice. Reading alone, writing alone, thinking in English alone.
When you practice English in solitude, reading slowly, speaking softly to yourself, writing out your thoughts, you go deeper into the language. You notice things you miss in fast-paced conversations. You build a more personal and lasting relationship with the language.
And the same is true for any goal. The planning, the reflection, the honest self-assessment, all of that happens best in solitude. When you are alone, you can be completely honest about where you are, what is working, and what needs to change.
You are not performing for anyone. You are not managing anyone's feelings about your progress. You are just you and the work, which is the cleanest and most direct path to real growth. Solitude removes all the noise between you and your goals.
Now, I want to address some of the common fears that people have about spending more time alone, because even after hearing all of this, those fears can still feel very real and very present. It is important to name them honestly.
One of the most common fears is, if I am alone too much, I will fall into dark or negative thinking. And this is a valid concern. When the mind is quiet, difficult thoughts can come up. It can feel overwhelming, especially at first.
But here is what is important to understand. Those difficult thoughts are there whether you are alone or not. Being with other people does not make them go away. It just covers them with noise. When you are alone and they surface, you have the chance to finally address them.
However, solitude is not the same as isolation, and it is not a substitute for professional support when that is needed. If you are going through something genuinely difficult, grief, depression, trauma, please seek help. Solitude is a tool for growth, not a cure for everything.
Another fear people have is, if I enjoy being alone too much, I will become antisocial. This is actually a very common misunderstanding about what healthy solitude does to a person. In reality, the opposite tends to happen.
When you feel full and settled within yourself, you actually want to connect with others more authentically. You are no longer seeking company out of anxiety or boredom. You choose your social time with much more intention, and it becomes far more meaningful.
And there's also the fear of boredom. Many people say, I will just get bored if I sit alone with nothing to do. But boredom, when allowed to fully arrive and stay for a moment, is often the doorway to creativity. It's the mind clearing space for something new.
Boredom is actually quite rare in our current world because we fill every second with stimulation. We have forgotten what it feels like to simply be.
But on the other side of boredom, if you stay with it and do not run, there is often a kind of calm aliveness that is quite wonderful.
I want to paint a clear picture of what it actually looks and feels like when someone has developed real inner strength through solitude. Because it is not dramatic, it does not come with a big announcement, it is quiet and steady.
It looks like someone who is not easily rattled by criticism, not because they do not hear it, but because they have a clear enough sense of themselves that one person's opinion does not shake their foundation. They can receive it, consider it, and decide calmly.
It looks like someone who can say no clearly and without guilt, because they know what they value and what they do not want to spend their energy on. They are not saying no to be difficult. They are saying no because they know themselves well enough to be honest.
It looks like someone who is content sitting in a quiet room, walking alone, or spending an evening by themselves, not with sadness, but with genuine peace. They do not need constant input from outside because they have a rich inner world to draw from.
And it looks like someone who brings calmness into the spaces they enter, because when you are settled within yourself, that settledness radiates outward. People feel at ease around those who are at ease with themselves. That quality is both rare and deeply attractive.
This kind of person did not arrive at this place through luck. They arrived through practice, through choosing, again and again, to spend time with themselves honestly, to face what came up, and to use those quiet moments to grow rather than to escape.
One thing that is really interesting about this topic is that different cultures around the world have very different relationships with solitude. And for our listeners who come from all kinds of backgrounds, this might feel very familiar or very different from your experience.
In many collectivist cultures, where community, family, and group harmony are deeply valued, spending a lot of time alone can feel strange or even disrespectful. The idea that being alone is productive or healthy is not always a shared value.
And that is completely understandable. In those cultures, strength often comes from the community, from belonging, contributing, and being part of something larger than yourself. That is a genuinely powerful form of strength, and it should be honored.
But even within those cultural frameworks, there is still something deeply human about the need for quiet self-reflection. Many spiritual traditions and deeply communal cultures, from Buddhism to Sufism to many indigenous practices, include forms of intentional solitude and inner reflection.
The common thread across cultures and traditions is this: genuine self-knowledge and inner peace requires some form of turning inward. Whether that is prayer, meditation, journaling, or simply sitting quietly, the form differs, but the purpose is the same.
So wherever you are from and whatever your background is, there is likely already a version of this practice in your culture or tradition. You don't need to adopt a foreign concept. You might just need to look a little deeper into what is already familiar to you.
Something that I really want to be clear about is this. When we talk about solitude being strengthening, we do not mean the more time alone, the better. It is not about quantity. It is entirely about the quality of how you use that time.
Someone who spends 6 hours scrolling on their phone alone is technically alone, but they are not benefiting from solitude. Their attention is completely outward, constantly responding and reacting. That is not restoring anything or building anything.
Whereas someone who takes 20 minutes each morning to sit quietly with their thoughts, write a few lines in a journal, or walk without earphones, that person is cultivating something real and lasting. Those 20 minutes have far more value than hours of passive scrolling.
So it's not about removing yourself from life or people. It's about creating intentional pockets of genuine stillness and using them to listen inward. That can happen even in a busy life. It just requires a small commitment and some awareness.
Even 5 minutes sitting in your car before entering the house after work. Even 10 minutes on a bench before starting your day. Those small windows, used intentionally, can build a remarkably strong inner foundation over time.
We have covered so much ground in this episode, and I feel like every part of it is something that people genuinely need to hear. The topic of solitude and inner strength is one that touches every aspect of life: how we feel, how we relate, and how we grow.
Absolutely. So let us bring it all together. We started by looking at why people are afraid of being alone, the social messaging, the comparison culture, the confusion between loneliness and solitude. And we saw that most of that fear is learned, not natural.
We then explored why solitude builds genuine strength through self-knowledge, emotional independence, creative thinking, and the ability to process your inner world honestly. These are not small benefits.
They are the building blocks of a strong and grounded life.
We talked about practical ways to begin, starting small with quiet moments, journaling, walking without distractions, and changing the story you tell yourself about being alone. None of these things require dramatic changes, just small, consistent choices.
And we saw that this is not about withdrawing from the world or from the people you love. It is about building such a strong and clear inner foundation that when you engage with the world, you do so from a place of wholeness rather than emptiness.
To every single person listening, wherever you are in your journey with this, know that choosing to spend quiet time with yourself is one of the most loving and wise things you can do, not just for yourself, but for everyone you share your life with.
And from an English learning perspective, I hope you found today's conversation natural, clear, and easy to follow. That is always our goal here. Real language, real ideas, real growth, all in one place.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. We are genuinely grateful for every one of you who chooses to spend your time with us. Please do leave a comment, share this episode with someone who might need it, and keep showing up for yourself.
And if you enjoyed today's episode, the Easy English Talk podcast has so many more conversations waiting for you on topics that help you grow, think clearly, and improve your English naturally, one episode at a time.
Go explore what else is there on the channel. You might find an episode that speaks to exactly what you are going through right now. Until next time, take care of yourself. And remember, your quiet moments are never wasted. They are where you are built.
Take good care, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.